Everybody, Jim Feist and Hank Goldberg in Las Vegas. The baseball meetings are going on here, Hank. We've got a big football game tomorrow night, and we got a couple running backs for the LA Chargers that are not going to be playing. I mean, it's not 100% sure that Gordon won't, but it looks like he won't, and Eckert is definitely out. That will definitely hurt them, won't it, Hank?
Yeah, for sure. And Andy Reid is beating the Chargers now 10 straight times. So that's a factor, too. So, and Phillip Rivers has a way of not showing up in primetime games and playing all that great. They give away a lot of games when under these circumstances. And Kansas City is, showing up every week. At quarterback is remarkable. Of course, the one thing the Chargers could do is probably put some pressure on them with those two pass rushers are there. But you know something? Kansas City is pretty good at rushing the passer. And they've shown up on defense the last couple of weeks. Their defense has improved. Well, look for Phillip Rivers to get some pressure from number 50. Watch number 50 when you're watching the game from Kansas City.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
His name is Ford. Ford is really a good player.
These are two good teams. It's coming down to the wire, and I think we know who the best teams are. There's some teams that are going to try to be sneaking into the playoffs, and anybody can be dangerous on a daily basis. Dallas is looking...
Well, I don't think Dallas is sneaking in, but they're going in full bore.
Yeah.
But you take a look at the game that's kind of interesting, very interesting to me, is going to be New England against Pittsburgh. And New England is a slight favorite in that game. And 2 weeks ago, Pittsburgh would not be an underdog at home. But they have turned into very much what Carolina has been. They're just finding ways to lose. And I don't think that Big Ben is 100%. The coach, for some reason, waited to bring him back into the game last week, and they lost another one. Their running game is not at 100%. Their defense is not playing all that well. And I thought, New England's defense isn't great either, but, they got beat on a trick play last week where they had a coaching gap, which was amazing, against Miami, where Miami ran that trick play against them at the very end. And New England should have been in that position and should never have taken out their safety to put Gronk in there to protect the end zone. That was really dumb. And that cost them the game. They don't lose two in a row. I mean, Belichick will be all over them. And but that's a big game for both of those teams because Pittsburgh's in real trouble. Baltimore is breathing down their necks. Baltimore's home against Tampa Bay this week, and Jackson is probably okay, and the coach has some role for Flacco, who's ready to go again. So I don't know what that is, but Baltimore probably should win this week, and there's a race there. So, but there's a lot of interesting games this week. Besides those, you got Philadelphia playing at the Rams. Philadelphia's pretty desperate. The Rams probably want to get back on track. The Monday night game has New Orleans at Carolina. New Orleans is now in a great position to get the home field advantage in the playoffs. The Giants are playing Tennessee at home. The Giants still have a mathematical chance to make the postseason, which is amazing. And they host Tennessee, which has been kind of an up and down team, but they're competent. That should be a fun game to watch. And Dallas goes to Indianapolis. And their defense against Luck and we'll see what Dallas quarterback can do in a road game there, which may cost out. I think that's a competitive game too. Great schedule this week.
Yeah, it really was. That when Carson Wentz sat out of practice yesterday, Hank, I guess he's got a sore back for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's the injuries start to mount this time of year. Of course, these guys take a lot of hits, and that does have an effect on not only the line but the outcome of the games. A lot of good games. There's a lot of situations where teams really have a chance. I mean, Seattle came off that the big win on Monday night, and they go to San Francisco, who they just played 2 weeks ago, and the Niners passed the ball for over 400 yards in that game with Nick Mullins. And I wonder if Seattle...
Yeah, but they lost by about 30 points, didn't they?
They got killed. They got killed. But, yeah, Seattle's really come on this year. There's no question. We didn't think that they were going to do it this year, but Pete Carroll has done a great job rebuilding within the season. He turned his team around. That game opened 6, Hank, and I see some 4.5s out there now. So there is some money that's come in on San Francisco. I guess they're probably thinking maybe Seattle came off a tough game. Now, what did you think of the Minnesota situation where they fired DiFilippo?
I think that was coming. But the problem really is Cousins, the quarterback. It's horrible. They got $24 million tied up in that guy, and he can't play. And but apparently the offensive coordinator Minnesota was a team that people expected to win that division and be a prospect to win the whole thing this year. And their offense has just sputtered. And it's mainly Cousins. He just hasn't lived up to what they hoped he would. And he's just not a prime-time player, number one. Number two, he's not an accurate passer. He's got 2 really good receivers plus a real good tight end. Their offensive line, one of the things that happened with that coaching staff was they lost their offensive line coach, Tony Serrano, passed away right before the season started. And their offensive line is one of the worst in the league right now. Serrano was a pretty good line coach, and they never adequately replaced him. But you know something? This is what's happening with these head coaches today. They just keep replacing assistants when their team underproduces. If it's not working out, find a scapegoat. And that guy was a hot prospect for a head coaching job 4 weeks ago. All of a sudden, he can't coach anymore.
How much of the blame do you put back on Zimmer for any of this?
Well, I learned this from Don Shula a long time ago. He never blamed his assistants for anything if things went wrong. He said the buck stops with him, and that's the way it should be. I'll tell you another guy who's great at in Baltimore, whenever things go wrong, get rid of the coordinator. Never the head coach's fault. There are examples of this all over the league. And whenever things don't go well, in Minnesota now, you have to look at the fact that this is his 4th offensive coordinator in 4 years. Gets one new one every year. Norv Turner had to get out of there for some reason. Norv's a good coach.
I think at some point you have to look at the head coach and say something is wrong here at the head coach level. Because
they were a game away from making the Super Bowl a year ago, and things just fell apart this year. But Zimmer has been a good coach.
Oh, I'm not doubting he's a good coach, but some of this is falling apart because they make decisions. They got rid of 3 quarterbacks and paid $84 million to Cousins after getting rid of 3 other guys.
Well, but they have a general manager there who makes all those personnel decisions in Minnesota.
Well, be that as it may, they have a game this week against the Miami Dolphins, who pulled off that miracle win last week against the Patriots. Now, you'd say Miami's playing on the road, but they're playing in a dome. It's not quite.
They're 1-10 on the road.
Yeah, very true. So it's going to be a good week. College basketball, the kids are a lot of. There's a short card every night because the kids are testing.
Well, Saturday they've got a really good card of games. Kansas is playing Villanova. Tennessee is playing Memphis. Tennessee's good. Memphis can really score. Kentucky plays Utah at home. Arizona State is playing Georgia. What a game that's going to be. There's a ton of good games this weekend. So I'm looking forward to Saturday. Purdue, Notre Dame will be a good basketball game. Butler, Indiana. Butler's very good. Indiana's very good. Some great matchups in college basketball on Saturday.
Got a big upset last night in college basketball when Penn beat Villanova. Intercity battle, Big 5 games. That was a huge upset for them.
Yeah. Yep. Penn's not bad. I'll tell you, it's interesting. Yale had a big win a couple of weeks ago too, but then Duke spanked them the other night. Some of those Ivy League teams can play.
Oh yeah, definitely, and usually well coached as well, because they don't have much depth, so they need the coaching, because you can't go with sheer talent. Anything else on your card for today that?
Well, there's some bowl games coming up this week, and I want to point out one game in particular, and that's Middle Tennessee against Appalachian State. Appalachian's pretty good, and they're a touchdown favorite, but Middle Tennessee has a quarterback named Stockstill, who's very good. And Middle Tennessee is a decent team. Stockstill is actually a prospect, and he's worth watching. That game is in the New Orleans Bowl on Saturday. And there's one other good matchup that I'm curious to see what happens when Arizona, when Herm Edwards coaching, goes against Fresno State. And that's games right here in Las Vegas. And that's Saturday afternoon.
That will be.
Fresno's pretty good.
Yep.
And Arizona State has been playing very well under Herm. He's done a good job there. So those are, and I know you've got the Battle of the Dakotas going on that you're high on.
Well, I gave out a free play on the North Dakota State. Yeah, I like that little team. Nobody thinks about them, but that's where Carson Wentz came from.
Yeah, well, I think one of the coaches in that game is leaving. Is not going to be there for that game.
The South Dakota State coach and his assistants have decided to leave. Yes.
I think he's leaving. He took another job.
He did, and he took 2 assistants with him. So they're kind of.
Oh, that's no, I didn't understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of a. That gives a pretty big advantage to the other team. You would think.
There is one other thing I'd like to discuss for the moment, and that is the Raiders, who have no place to play right now.
For next year,
They thought they could make a deal with the city of Oakland for next year, but that deal has fallen apart, and as of now, they don't have a stadium to play in. And so the question is, where do they go? Are they going to go to south, down to L.A. and play games there? Might they go to San Diego for a year? I don't think they're coming here a year early. Certainly that stadium's not going to be ready, and I don't think they're going to play in a small stadium here to start with. So they've got an interesting dilemma on their hands right now.
And they just fired Reggie McKenzie as well. That's another big move that they made. John Gruden.
Yeah.
John Gruden's totally in charge now.
He fired everybody. He fired people who have been working there for years, and he's let all go. And it's, McKenzie, he made some pretty good draft picks in the few years that he was there, and but they're playing for other teams right now. And but he had a good eye for talent.
He certainly did.
Yeah, I like Gruden, but for him to sit up there and say they're good friends and he's a great guy, fired him.
I'm not quite sure I'm in his camp on all this, but I guess only time will tell. I mean, they gave him a 10-year contract. Nobody does that. Nobody ever gives anybody a 10-year contract. But at least in football, I know they do it in baseball. But it's interesting. I mean, they obviously have been trying to win, which is a lot of people thought they were just going to tank the whole year, but they didn't do that. They won down in Arizona. They beat Pittsburgh this past week. It's going to be interesting, and we'll have them here in 2 years. Next year is going to be interesting where they're going to play. I mean, I don't know where they're going to go, but they'll probably find something.
Well, they could also stay in the Bay Area and share a stadium with the 49ers and play in Santa Clara. That could happen, too. Yeah,
it could. They tried that before, and they couldn't work out a deal, but you never know. Maybe they'll try to renegotiate and pay them more money. That's possible. And Hank, you've been doing really well. We've got an interesting week ahead of us. All of your plays are at JimFeist.com. If there's nothing else, Hank, we'll close it off for today and come back again on Friday, if that's okay.
By the way, did you watch the Miami Heat game against the Lakers?
I did.
Where they took it right down to the end, but Wade just couldn't hit a shot in the last 3 or 4 minutes, and that really cost him. But it was nice to see him against LeBron. It was a nice story.
It was a great story. There was a story on TV that a lot of people are talking about last night. It was a 30-30 story about Bobby Knight. I never knew Bobby Knight. You probably did. You kind of know everybody. But it was about what happened back in 2000 and all the controversy and everything that took place with him.
That's the second story that was done, feature that was done on Bobby Knight. Actually, there was another one done that had a lot of Jeremy Schaap in it. And, none of those stories have made Bobby Knight out to be a good guy. But he was a great coach. And, you forget that he won 3 championships in Indiana early in his years there.
Yeah, coaching-wise, I don't think anybody can fault his ability to coach. Some of the other stuff, whether it's true or not, I'm not going to say anything about it. I don't know. But it was not a flattering story, that's for sure.
A friend of mine, when he was working for ESPN, was assigned to him as a producer and had to travel with him for the day. I guess he was doing a radio show was part of his responsibilities at ESPN, and drove him nuts.
Well, all right, Hank, we'll talk again on Friday. Thank you.
Okay, have a good day.
You too, buddy.